Hi everybody, hope you're having a great day and thank you so much for joining me. And I hope that this video actually makes your day even better. In this video, it's not so much class as it is a semi-tutorial on some tips and some tools for releasing lower back pain, at least in the moment or temporarily. So whether or not you've done a workout and your back feels a bit aggravated, or maybe something you've done throughout your day has made your back feel extra tight or extra sore, or maybe even giving you some pain in your lower back, or maybe you're just having a stressful day and your lower back is where you carry your stress. These three main postures, or these three main, I won't say exercises, but these three main releases are some of my favorite things to do if my lower back is feeling tight and I want to relax. I don't want to do a workout. I don't want to work it out. I don't want to try to do anything crazy. I don't want to do my pails and rails. All I want to do is try to mitigate how sore my lower back is feeling or how much my sacrum is feeling sore. So these three postures are a great way to relieve any of that excess stress that your daily life or exercise program or maybe stress has put into that lower back. Now for this, there's a lot of different ways to set up. So most of us aren't going to have 20 some blocks sitting around in their house that they can use to build up a mountain of structure, but most of us have things like coffee tables, chairs, beds, sofas. There's a lot of different things that you can use and modify to make these postures work for you. I just happen to have a whole lot of blocks, so I can customize the height of everything personally to make it exactly the right size that I want it. But at home, if you've got blankets, pillows, again, like I said, chairs, tables, things like that, it's very easy to set these postures up with things that most of us have in our homes. Okay, so the first posture, and the way that I'm going to go through these postures is the way that if I was really feeling my lower back, this is the order in which I would personally do them in order to get the most out of each of them. Okay, so I'm going to give you three different positions and I'm going to do them in the order in which I would do them if I was going to do all three at the same time. Okay, so the first posture is we're going to need something that is relatively somewhere around the length of your shin. And that's not the same for everybody. Everybody's body is made a little bit different. But if you've got something that's relatively knee height or a little bit low, I find most of the time it's a little bit lower than knee height. So for this, you can see that the top of these blocks is just a little bit lower than my knee. So again, a chair, coffee table, sofa, maybe something small with a pillow on top. Again, there's a lot of different ways to set that up. What you're gonna need though is something that's about at least hip width to shoulder width wide and at least somewhere close to knee height. And as far as depth, about the length, again, of your shin bone is about how long it's gonna need to be. From there, once you figure out what you're gonna use, then what you're gonna do is you're gonna scoot your butt as close into that object as you can. You're gonna lie on your back and you're going to rest your calves on top of whatever structure you've found. And you're going to do the best you can to relax your legs. So if your legs feel like they're gonna roll out or roll in, this means that the structure that you're using might not quite be high enough. If your legs are trying to fall away from one another, or your legs are trying to buckle in, depending on how your hips feel. If you find that, then that means maybe grab like a blanket or something and put it on top and just raise it up a little bit by little bit until you find something that keeps your legs feeling like you can relax without your legs flopping out or in. If you're really stuck, letting your legs flop out and in is still going to be something that helps relieve any tension or helps decompress that lower back. So feel free to still do that. But if you have the things around you that are available to you, build that up and get yourself into a position where your knees are almost stacked over your hip. If my knee was directly stacked over my hip, you might still find that there's some aggravation, especially if you have tight hip flexors, that's going to cause you some issues and not allow your lower back to release. So I find for most of us, if your knee is just a little bit, not quite stacked, but almost stacked over your hips, and then just finding a nice comfortable position to lie in. Once again, things that can happen here that can make this not feel like a release is if you got a really tight neck and you get into this position, you're like, okay, my lower back feels fine, but now my neck's all jacked up, is then just take a pillow or a block or something that put it underneath your head and allow the body to relax. As you relax, you might notice that the neck slowly can come down, but we also don't want to be in a position in our neck where our head is like this either. If you're doing that, then again, lifting your head just a little bit is going to allow your whole spine to decompress a little bit easier. Okay. Other little adjustments that you can do as well is if, even though your legs don't feel like they have to fall in, but you'd like to, then something else that can help you relax your hips a bit more is potentially sliding a block or a pillow or something, again, roughly the size of a yoga block, between your knees, which then just encourages them to, if you do relax and they want to flop in, it's just going to hold them out and allow you to relax a little bit more without letting your knees splay in or out on you. All right. So things like that can make this a little bit more comfortable. And again, the more you practice this posture, just like everything else, customize it until you find what feels the best for you. The last little alteration I'll give you to try is another thing. If you got a lot of soreness in your sacrum, is getting a blanket, and obviously you can use that blanket to prop that up, but it also can feel quite nice to just give your lower back a little extra elevation here. So putting that little, again, this is only about a 1/2 inch to inch thickness, but when I do that and I relax a little bit more, it does allow my sacrum and my lower back to feel a little bit more cushioned and a little bit more wanting to relax in this position. So again, another thing that you can try, play around until you find what gives your pelvis, hips, and lower back all the things that it requires to let go. The whole purpose of this position and all the positions I'm about to show you is to decompress and relax chronically tight tissue. All right, so once you find that position, enjoy it. Once you've found that position that your lower back can finally relax, if you've been in lower back pain, then take your time and stay here for a while. I would say minimum dose to get anything out of it would be 2 minutes, and even that is probably not quite enough. I would say what I've personally seen in myself as well as clients is that 3 minutes is really the minimum dose for something like this. Whereas the maximum dose, I would say, where it stops really giving you the kind of feeling that you're looking for, is probably somewhere between the 10 and 12 minutes. You can definitely do it for longer, but I'm going to say that if you've got time to do this position for a half an hour, then following the sequence that I'm about to go through is going to help more than just staying in this one position. Okay, so this is position 1. Both legs supported. My knees are hip width. My legs are trying to stay as parallel to everything as possible. My feet aren't sticking out. My knees aren't sticking out. I'm trying to keep everything in that nice train track kind of position. My body is relaxed. In this case, I've got something under my lower back, but you don't need that. I'm not trying to flatten out my back. I'm not trying to arch my back. I'm just trying to let the structure, in this case, my blocks, take the weight of my legs and let my hips, pelvis, and lower back release. Okay, so I would do that somewhere between 3 to 12 minutes. Then, once I was done with this, or once I felt like I had enough time and my lower back has begun to release, the next position I would go into would probably use the same structure, unless you're using something that's got an arm on it. But the next position is very simple. It's the same idea. The only difference is I'm going to only do one leg. So I'm going to set up the same way with that one leg. I'm going to let all the same rules apply to that. We don't want it flopping in and out. We don't want all that. But this case, I'm going to take the other leg and I'm going to try to straighten it. So as I straighten it, I'm lucky I got nice open hip flexors at this time, so I can keep my foot right on the floor, and this feels great. I feel a nice, very gentle stretch through here. I'm got some blocks set up to stop my foot from rolling out. If you're really, really tight, what you'll notice is if you straighten your leg and you relax it, your foot is going to immediately flop out to the side. Not that that's horrible, but for this case, I want to try to allow some more of the muscles in my upper hip and in my pelvis to relax. So I want to keep my foot neutral so that my hip can relax more. So I'm propping up my foot with some blocks and I'm allowing that to happen. Now and again, same adjustments, same fidgeting, same ways. I can slide something underneath my sacrum to make it feel better. I can slide a block underneath my head. All of those same things that you were doing when you had both legs lifted and supported on your couch, table, or whatever you were using. Those same adjustments and those same tools and alterations can work here as well. The other thing though is if I wasn't so open in my hip and as soon as I tried to straighten my leg, I noticed that it put a lot of pressure on my lower back. What I would do in this case, I wouldn't sit up like this, but I'm just going to point, is I would pick something that I would find the height that my leg can be straight, not bent, but straight. I would find the height. Maybe I'm stacking up a column of blocks, some shoe boxes, maybe another chair. Maybe I've got my foot at pretty much the same height here, and I'm relaxing it in that position. And then as that hip flexor releases, you'll be able to slowly let that foot come back down. For example, let's say this is the height that felt good. So I would let my legs stay in that position. And if this allows my hip flexor to relax a lot more and my lower back to feel good, then this is where I would stay for this one. So again, you would lift the foot higher and prop it up if you're tighter in the hip flexor. And you would slowly, over time, not in the same day, but over practicing this more often, as that hip flexor starts to open up and as things start to get better for your back, you would slowly eventually begin the process of trying to get your heel closer and closer to the floor. Once again, once you get all of that stuff sorted out and you've got yourself in the position that's going to work the best for you, then it's a matter of, again, relaxing. I'm not trying to do anything. I'm using as many props and as many things around my house to make it so that once I get into the position that feels right, that I can completely let go and melt into this position. Again, the idea of this whole thing is to give you tools that will help you relax chronically tight tissue, things that like to spasm, things that like to cramp. All right, so once I've got that spot, again, minimum 3 minutes, maximum 12-ish minutes, staying here, letting that hip flexor and that lower back begin to work on releasing any chronic tension that's there. Once I've done one side, obviously I would switch it up, bend my other leg, straighten my other leg, and do the other side for the same amount of time. Just because one side is way tighter than the other or feels more pain, don't think that by doing more on that side is going to help that side more. A lot of the times, even if we feel it more in our left or feel it more in our right, we want to make sure we do both sides because we actually don't know, unless you've got x-ray eyes and you've got a specialty in physiotherapy or all that fun stuff, you don't know what's actually causing your discomfort. So what we want to try to do is we want to try to create as much symmetry in how we approach that issue so that we're dealing with both sides of the coin. So I do my left side for 3 to 12 minutes, and then whatever I do on my left side, I'm going to then do the same amount on my right. Now, one thing that I will say is if you do feel pain on one side, I personally like starting with the side that I feel pain on and then going to my good side. So if my left sacrum is hurting or my left lower back is hurting, then I would do my left leg straight first to help decongest that left hip flexor, and then I would move over to the right side. But I would still do them for the same amount of time. Okay, so once you've had that, again, 3 to 12 minutes, do one side, do the other side, 3 to 12 minutes. Now we're going to get into my absolute favorite, but one that is a little bit more interesting to set up. Okay, so let me get out of this. So those are the first two, and I would recommend doing, again, both legs, then moving towards the single leg, because the double leg one is setting yourself up, allowing the whole sacrum as a whole and the lower back and the pelvis and all that stuff and the hips. It's allowing it to have a gentle decompression in a position that it's pretty familiar with because we sit so much. Then moving on to the asymmetrical one, where you got one leg as straight as possible while the other leg is staying in that comfortable position. What this is going to do is it's going to start to, one leg at a time, peel into the pelvis and the fact that one side of our pelvis is able to move separate from the other. And then once you've got all of that going on, the next thing that we want to try to do is we actually want to get into the lower back a little bit more directly. This is decompressing by allowing the pelvis, lower back, and hips to find some sense of neutral to relaxing. The next position that I'm going to show you is going to take you into a position that's actually going to now try to decompress that front of your lower back. So again, getting a little bit more into relaxing the psoas, so those deeper hip flexors, at the same time as decompressing the discs in your lower back also. Okay, so give me a second. I'm going to set up for this last and final one, and we'll be right back. All right, the final one I'm going to go through today is one where you're going to again need something like a tall bed or a coffee table, something relatively solid that you can lie on top of. If you're going to use a bed, if you've got a firm mattress, you probably don't have to do anything different. If you've got a really, really soft mattress, what I would recommend is taking a pillow and putting it right up on the edge, because when we lie down on this, we're going to start to come over top of the edge. And if it's too soft, you're just going to collapse in and you're not going to get the same sensation. So building up the edge of your bed is going to work a little bit better. For a coffee table, I definitely recommend putting as many blankets or towels or anything to soften the edge of the coffee table so that it is not digging in to you as you hang over the edge. It'll make way more sense when I show you what the actual position is and how to move through to get to the final position, which you might not be able to get into right away, but over time, hopefully you learn how to get there, because the final position is my personal favorite. Okay, in this case, I'm using a massage table, not something that everybody's got around at their house, but personally, it's my favorite thing to do this stretch on because it's soft, but still quite firm. All right, so first things first, I'm going to get onto my table or couch, or again, probably not a couch, but a coffee table or a bed. It does work quite well. I've done this on my bed quite a few times, and it does work quite a bit. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to have my arms crossed, and I'm going to scoop myself so that my collarbones are just off the edge, and I'm going to start with simply letting my head hang down. Now, if you're really tight, simply letting your head hang down here, you might already begin to feel this in your lower back. If that's you, then guess what? This is where you stay until you don't feel a ridiculous pull in your lower back. If you do this though, and you got a nice healthy lower back, or you're not feeling any tension in your lower back whatsoever when you do this, then you can snuggle your way a little bit further. I like to go then to the just underneath the chest, and then once again also allow the spine to round. Again, when I relax, I am trying to be as dead weight as possible and let my head, the crown of my head in particular, pull towards the floor. Again, this is starting to give me a little bit more decompression through my whole back, which feels really nice, but still not super big sensation for me. So I'm going to go a little bit deeper once again. But as you can see, probably now you're starting to get the idea of, if it was too soft, you would just slide right off. So you need to build that front edge up. If it's too hard, like the edge of a coffee table, you definitely want to make sure that that front edge where you're rolling or relaxing over top isn't causing you too much discomfort so that you can't stay here for very long. Again, once you find, okay, that feels good, but I want to go a little bit deeper, again, use your arms, snuggle out a little bit further, and as long as I'm not past my elbow joint, I'm going to keep my hands beside me
use my arms a little bit to guide myself, and get into a position where then I can relax here. And once you go past this point, gravity pretty much does the work for you. And then when you slide all the way down, as soon as your head makes contact with the floor, then you can bring your arms down, push down through your forearms, walk forward until you find that hip crease. So that crease where now I'm not resting on my belly anymore, I'm right on the front or the top points of my hip crest, right? Once you get that into that position, I'm going to let my forearms take most of my weight. I'm going to relax my neck. I'm going to relax my shoulders. I'm going to let my forehead very gently rest on the floor, not cranking my neck. If you do have a lot of issues with your neck, you could always pick something like a pillow or a block, and you could hold on to it and allow your head to rest on that if that feels more comfortable. The opposite also works too, is if it feels better, you can always prop your elbows up and then give your head a little bit more space so that you have even more weight on your elbows and even less weight on your neck. And if all of that fails, you can always turn your head to one side and the other, as long as that doesn't cause any pain in your neck or your lower back. Personally, I like good old forearms on the ground, relaxing and resting on my forehead. From here, I want to have just a gentle sensation of pushing my upper thighs, so my knees, just a little bit down into the table or into the bed, and allowing my front of my hip to engage just a little bit so that I can relax my lower back a little bit more. I'll take a few breaths into this position. Most of us are going to find the relief that we're looking for here. And in this position, again, it's about relaxing. So I'm not trying to hold anything in. I'm letting my belly hang out. I'm breathing into my rib cage. I'm trying to be as dead weight as I can and let gravity decompress my lower back. To try to get any of those chronically tight muscles and give them an opportunity to be supported and relax and let go of that chronic tension. That spasm or that cramp, whatever is causing your discomfort. Now, if you want to take this even further, which definitely you do not need to, the next thing I would do to try to get a little bit more length through my spine would be then to prop myself up a little bit and start walking my elbows farther forward. I'm not going to move my hips anymore. I'm just going to start to get my shoulders a little bit more into this stretch, which will pull on my lats a bit and start to get even more traction in my lower back. So the more I reach my arms forward, again, be careful. As my arms go forward, my forehead has to take a little bit more weight. So if your neck's an issue, then this probably isn't the best place for you to go to. But the farther that I reach my arms, the more my lats are stretched, and therefore the more my lower back gets some more decompression or some more traction. Take a few breaths in this position. I'm letting my butt shine its way up towards the ceiling more and more. Definitely don't want to bend my knees because I want all the weight to try to keep my hips nice and solid and let my lower back completely relax. You can. In the future, I will show you how to take this even deeper, but for now, I think that's probably the best place to stay. There's one other alteration that you can do that can, again, this won't make the lower back end any more decompressive, but it will help with lengthening out the outside of the shoulder and the side bodies while you're here, which is if you can get into this position, then it also can feel nice to bend the elbows and bring the hands behind the head, reaching through the elbows. And this is just going to get you more of a stretch into the armpit. But again, if it's about the lower back, bending the elbows won't really change much for that lower back. Okay, and again, this is one of my personal favorites for if my lower back is tight, but my lower back tightness, if I do experience any sort of lower back discomfort, mine's generally coming from my psoas and those deep hip flexors, so it causes some sacral discomfort. This is my personal favorite, but all three that I've shown you in this video are all gonna work really, really well together if you have the time to go through all three. If you only have time to do one, I would recommend doing the first one. If you have time to do two, I would recommend doing the first one and the second one. If you've got time, if you got like a half an hour to spend on decompressing your back, this is the cherry on top if you've got that time. But again, the same as far as the other ones go. This one, I would say 2 minutes is the minimum. You can definitely get a lot of relief in 2 minutes here. If you don't, but being the kind of position that it is, if you're not used to being upside down, start off small, even if it's only 10 to 15 seconds, just to build up the ability to be here for longer. Don't feel like you have to immediately jump in and do a therapeutic dose of 2 to 10 minutes. Build your way in slowly if it feels uncomfortable, because this should be something that feels good. If it doesn't feel good, it's not going to do the job that I'm intending it to in this case. It can be decent in an uncomfortable position for other reasons, but if you've got issues with your lower back or your lower sacrum or anything like that, we want this to be a decompressive position. We don't want this to be a place where we're forcing anything. Okay, so again, if it feels good, 3 to 12 minutes. If it doesn't feel good, just take as much time, get used to this position, move around, play around with it until maybe you find something that does feel good while you're there. And then working your way up to that 3 minutes, and then working your way up a little bit longer if you have the time for it. All right. Once you are done, just so that you see how there's a lot of different ways to get out of this. If you're down all the way and you're in that position, push through the forearms, come up onto your hands. There's one, if you're worried about falling, you can push yourself back onto the table. If you're worried, I don't know if maybe your arms aren't strong enough in order to do that. Maybe you're dealing with something else that you can't do that. Then the other option is actually, say it's a bed, work yourself towards the corner of the bed, and then you can take your legs off, coming onto the floor, and stay in this position and do a little cat-cow, some waves, and work on the back if you're dealing with a lot of discomfort. Or you can simply, if you're feeling really good, you can simply push through your hands, step off, or like I said, you can push yourself back up onto it, come back into this. Now, just like I've said with the other ones, with all the other videos that you've gotten, play around with each one of these positions and try to make it feel right for you. And remember the objective. The objective of what I'm trying to share with you here is ways to decompress and relax that chronically tight tissue in your lower back, hips, and pelvis. So if it doesn't feel like it's doing that, remember that is our goal here. So if it's not working for you, then please back off. Also, feel free to send me any questions, any comments, or ask about any alterations that you can do here that I maybe didn't go over. There's so many different ways to set up any different stretch or any different position, including these three. So have fun, play with it, and I hope that you love these three positions as much as I do, especially when my back is sore. Thank you for joining me. Enjoy the rest of your day.